Commander Maya Chen pressed her forehead against the cold viewport of Orbital Defense Station Sentinel, watching Earth's blue curve against the darkness of space. 24 hours ago, life had been normal. 24 hours ago, humanity hadn't known it wasn't alone in the universe. The silent proximity alarm flashed red, reflecting off her face. Another wave was coming. "Dr. Okafor, tell me you have something," she said into her comm, her voice steady despite the fatigue of 36 hours without sleep. "Working on it, Commander," came the reply from Earth's makeshift command center. "Their shielding technology is like nothing we've seen, but every system has a weakness." Maya's second-in-command, Lieutenant Ezra Rodriguez, approached with a datapad. "The Vraxian mothership is deploying fighters again. Estimates put this wave at twice the size of the last one." She nodded grimly. "Sound general quarters. All hands to battle stations." As klaxons blared through the station, Maya allowed herself one last look at Earth. Somewhere down there, her daughter Lily was hiding in an underground bunker with thousands of other civilians. Maya had promised to come home. It was a promise she intended to keep. Terrifying encounter. The day aliens regretted attacking Earth. Commander Maya Chen pressed her forehead against the cold viewport of Orbital Defense Station Sentinel, watching Earth's blue curve against the darkness of space. 24 hours ago, life had been normal. 24 hours ago, humanity hadn't known it wasn't alone in the universe. The silent proximity alarm flashed red, reflecting off her face. Another wave was coming. "Dr. Okafor, tell me you have something," she said into her comm, her voice steady despite the fatigue of 36 hours without sleep. "Working on it, Commander," came the reply from Earth's makeshift command center. "Their shielding technology is like nothing we've seen, but every system has a weakness." Maya's second-in-command, Lieutenant Ezra Rodriguez, approached with a datapad. "The Vraxian mothership is deploying fighters again. Estimates put this wave at twice the size of the last one." She nodded grimly. "Sound general quarters. All hands to battle stations." As klaxons blared through the station, Maya allowed herself one last look at Earth. Somewhere down there, her daughter Lily was hiding in an underground bunker with thousands of other civilians. Maya had promised to come home. It was a promise she intended to keep. 72 hours earlier. Dr. Kwame Okafor stared at his computer terminal, rubbing bloodshot eyes as he sifted through anomalous radio signals captured by the Deep Space Network. As chief astrophysicist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, he'd seen plenty of cosmic noise, but this pattern was different, structured, repeating, with mathematical precision that couldn't be natural. His colleague, Dr. Sarah Nakamura, set a fresh coffee beside him. "You've been staring at that sequence for 12 hours, Kwame. Go home. Look at this frequency shift," he said, ignoring her suggestion. "It's accelerating on a logarithmic curve. Whatever's generating this signal is approaching our solar system." Sarah leaned closer. "That can't be right. The velocity would have to be faster than anything we've ever recorded," Kwame finished. "But the Doppler effect doesn't lie." He brought up a projection model that plotted the signal's origin against time. The animation showed a rapidly moving object decelerating as it approached the edge of the solar system. "I've triple-checked the math. Something is coming, and it's slowing down." "That suggests intent, Sarah. That suggests intelligence." Sarah's face paled. "Have you told anyone else?" "Not yet. I wanted to be certain." He sent the data to the main observatory computers. "But now I am. We need to contact the director immediately." Within 6 hours, observatories across the globe had confirmed Kwame's findings. Within 12, world leaders had been briefed. Within 24, the first visual confirmation came through the James Webb Space Telescope, a massive object, clearly artificial, decelerating into orbit around Jupiter. First contact had begun. General William Harrington stood in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by military advisors and scientists, including Kwame. On the main screen, satellite imagery showed the alien vessel, now identified as approximately 3 kilometers in length, changing its trajectory. "It's moving toward Earth," Kwame said unnecessarily. Everyone could see the projected path. "What are our options?" asked the president. Diplomatically, we've tried broadcasting welcome messages on all frequencies, said the Secretary of State. No response. And militarily, the President asked, turning to Harrington. The General straightened. Limited, Madam President. If their technology allows interstellar travel, they're centuries ahead of us. We've placed our space-based assets on high alert and activated orbital defense protocols, but he left the sentence unfinished. Everyone understood the implication. We should evacuate key personnel to hardened facilities, suggested the Secretary of Defense. Begin moving civilians to shelter. The President nodded. Make it happen. But quietly, no need to cause panic until we know their intentions. Kwame stepped forward. Madam President, we're detecting energy buildup within the vessel. They may be preparing to. The screens flickered, then stabilized to show a new image, Earth satellites, one by one, going dark. They're taking out our eyes, General Harrington said grimly. Not just our eyes, Kwame replied, checking his tablet. They're systematically disabling our entire orbital infrastructure. Communications, GPS, reconnaissance, it's all going down. The President's phone lit up. Reports coming in from around the world: massive electronic failures, power grids fluctuating, defense systems going offline. She looked up, her expression hardened. This is no longer first contact. This is an invasion. Commander Maya Chen was aboard the International Space Station when the alien EMP hit. The station's hardened systems kept minimal life support online, but everything else went dark. Through the viewport, she watched as the other modules of the station lost power, their lights blinking out one by one. Status report, she called out, pushing herself through the microgravity toward the emergency console. Her crew of 6 astronauts and cosmonauts were already assessing damage. Primary systems offline, reported flight engineer Dmitry Korlov. Backup power at 60% and falling. Communications? Dead. We can't reach Houston or Moscow. Maya made a quick decision. Prep the emergency return vehicle. We're evacuating. As they worked, a shadow fell across the station. Maya looked up and felt her breath catch. Through the viewport loomed a craft unlike anything humans had built, sleek, asymmetrical, with a surface that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. It was a scout ship, relatively small compared to the mothership they'd glimpsed earlier, but still 3 times the size of the ISS. Everyone, quickly, she urged, helping her crew into the emergency vehicle. The alien craft extended what looked like a sensor array, scanning the station. Maya was the last to enter the escape pod, sealing the hatch behind her. As they detached, she caught a final glimpse of the alien vessel firing a concentrated energy beam at the abandoned station, slicing through it like paper. Their descent to Earth was rough but controlled. They landed in the Pacific, where a Navy vessel, operating on analog systems unaffected by the alien EMP, retrieved them. By the time they reached shore, the invasion had begun in earnest. Military bases worldwide reported the same pattern: precision strikes against command centers, power plants, and communications hubs. The alien forces, now identified as the Vraxians by the few messages they deigned to transmit, deployed overwhelming technology with surgical precision. Their fighter craft moved with impossible speed and maneuverability, their weapons cut through hardened bunkers like butter, and their shields shrugged off the most powerful human weapons as if they were nothing. They established beachheads in strategic locations across the globe, erecting massive structures that seemed to be mining operations. Within 48 hours, organized military resistance had been crippled. Earth's remaining forces retreated to hardened mountain facilities and underground bunkers. Civilian governments went into hiding, communicating via old-fashioned radio and physical messengers. It was in one such bunker, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, that Dr. Kwame Okafor found himself working alongside the greatest scientific minds Earth had to offer, desperately seeking a way to fight back. They're methodically stripping resources, he explained, showing geological scans to the assembled military and scientific leaders. Rare earth elements, primarily. Their mining operations are focused on deposits of neodymium, dysprosium, and terbium. Elements used in advanced electronics and energy systems, noted Dr. Nakamura, who had joined him at the facility. General Harrington nodded. So they're not here for our water or fossil fuels. They want our minerals. Precisely, Kwame said. And they're extracting them with remarkable efficiency. At the current rate, they'll deplete Earth's accessible rare earth deposits within months. What about their technology? Asked Maya Chen, who had been assigned as military liaison to the scientific team after her return from space. Have we identified any vulnerabilities? Kwame adjusted his glasses. Their energy weapons operate on principles similar to our theoretical directed energy designs, but orders of magnitude more advanced. Their shields appear to use some form of electromagnetic containment field. But, Sarah interjected, we've noticed something interesting in their deployment patterns. They rely heavily on centralized command and control. Their smaller craft don't seem to operate independently, they follow strict tactical algorithms. Maya leaned forward. You're saying they don't improvise? Exactly, Kwame replied. They're technologically superior but predictable. Their tactics show no adaptation to our countermeasures, limited as those have been. They simply overwhelm with superior firepower. A glimmer of hope appeared in Maya's eyes. That's something we can use. Humans have been winning against superior forces through guerrilla tactics and asymmetric warfare for centuries. General Harrington nodded slowly. We need to hit them where they're vulnerable, not where they're strong. If they think linearly, we need to think laterally, Maya finished. For the first time since the invasion began, the room felt charged with possibility rather than despair. The Vraxian commander, High Executor Trazek, was puzzled by the human response. His species had conquered 12 worlds before this one, and none had shown such stubborn, illogical resistance after their military capabilities were neutralized. The extraction facilities in Sector 7 were attacked again, reported his second, Sub-Executor Nevral. The humans used primitive explosive devices and projectile weapons. We lost 6 drones and a processing unit before neutralizing them. Casualties? Trazek asked. 17 humans. But our intelligence suggests they consider this an acceptable exchange. Trazek's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of irritation. They sacrifice themselves without purpose. The outcome is mathematically certain they cannot prevail against our technology. There is another matter, Nevral continued. Our communications array in the northern hemisphere was compromised. The humans did not destroy it, they introduced a virus into its systems. This was more concerning. What was the effect? The array transmitted corrupted data for 6 hours before we detected the anomaly. Resource surveys from that region will need to be recalculated. Trazek moved to the command center's viewing portal, looking down at the blue planet. They are irrational. The Supreme Consciousness calculated a 97% probability that organized resistance would cease after the neutralization of their military infrastructure. Perhaps the Supreme Consciousness did not account for all variables, Nevral suggested carefully. A dangerous statement, bordering on heresy among their kind. But Trazek found himself unable to dismiss it entirely. Increase drone production by 30%, he ordered. Accelerate the extraction timeline. I want this operation completed before the humans can further disrupt our efficiency. Maya Chen surveyed the ragtag group assembled in the abandoned mine shaft that served as their forward operating base. 30 soldiers from various military branches, a dozen civilian engineers, and a handful of local resistance fighters who knew the terrain. Not the force she would have chosen to strike against an alien mining facility, but it was what she had. The target is heavily guarded, she explained, pointing to the makeshift 3D model they'd constructed from reconnaissance data. 4 perimeter shield generators, automated defense turrets, and approximately 50 combat drones. Lieutenant Rodriguez, who had served with her on the Sentinel station before the invasion, raised his hand. How do we get past the shields? Our weapons can't penetrate them. We don't need to, Maya replied with a slight smile. Dr. Okafor's team has been studying their technology. The shields block energy weapons and high-velocity projectiles, but they're calibrated to ignore slower-moving, non-metallic objects. They have to be, or they'd block the very minerals they're trying to extract. She held up what looked like a primitive crossbow. This fires carbon fiber bolts slow enough to pass through their shields. Once inside, we use these. An engineer named Priya Kapoor stepped forward, holding a small device. EMP charges. They won't disable their systems permanently. Their technology is too advanced, but they'll create a localized disruption for approximately 3 minutes. That's our window, Maya continued. Team Alpha creates a diversion at the north perimeter. Team Bravo infiltrates through the extraction tunnel and plants charges on their central processing node. Once it's down, Team Charlie moves in to collect samples of their technology. And if we encounter those elite guards? Asked a Marine sergeant. The ones with the powered armor? Maya's expression grew serious. Avoid engagement if possible. If not, she hefted a strange-looking weapon. Dr. Nakamura reverse-engineered this from salvaged Vraxian components. It creates a focused electromagnetic pulse short range, but it should disrupt their armor systems momentarily. Long enough to use conventional weapons. She looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. I won't lie to you. This is high risk. But every piece of their technology we can analyze brings us closer to finding a weakness. Every facility we disable slows their extraction timeline. A young soldier spoke up. And buys time for what, Commander? We can't keep this up forever. Maya nodded. For Dr. Okafor and his team to complete Project Antares. I don't have clearance to know all the details, but it's our best hope for a decisive counterattack. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the stakes. We move at 0200, Maya said finally. Get some rest. As the group dispersed, Rodriguez stayed behind. You didn't tell them the casualty projections, he said quietly. 40%, she acknowledged. But if we succeed, those losses serve a purpose. Rodriguez studied her. Is it worth it? Maya thought of her daughter Lily, safely hidden in a bunker thousands of miles away. If we do nothing, humanity becomes just another conquered species. Another footnote in their history. So yes, Lieutenant. It's worth everything. The raid played out almost exactly as planned until it didn't. Team Alpha's diversion drew most of the Vraxian drones to the north perimeter. Team Bravo infiltrated through the extraction tunnel, moving slowly enough to pass through the shields undetected. The EMP charges worked perfectly, creating a temporary blind spot in the facility's security. What they hadn't counted on was the Vraxians adapting. They're rerouting power to secondary systems, shouted Priya through the comm as she worked at the alien terminal. The blind spot is closing faster than we calculated. Maya made a split-second decision. Team Charlie, abort sample collection. Fall back to extraction point 2. Bravo, how much longer for the charges? 90 seconds, came Rodriguez's voice, strained with exertion. But we'll be trapped when these EMPs wear off. Maya checked her tactical display. Team Alpha was already taking casualties, the diversion becoming a desperate fight for survival. Alpha, fall back. Make as much noise as you can on the way. She turned to her own squad members. We're going to give Bravo their 90 seconds. She led her team directly toward the central facility, firing the reverse-engineered EMP weapons at every drone they encountered. For precious seconds, it worked. The drones dropped, their systems temporarily scrambled, then the facility lights pulsed, and a new wave of drones emerged, these with visible modifications, their vulnerable components now shielded. They're adapting. Maya shouted. Fall back to position 3. Her team retreated, taking fire now as the modified drones pursued. 2 soldiers fell, then a third. Maya fired her last EMP charge, buying them a few seconds to reach cover behind a processing tank. Bravo, status, she called into her comm. Charges set, Rodriguez replied. 30 seconds to detonation. We're pinned down in Section 5. Maya checked her map. Section 5 was on the opposite side of the facility, too far to reach before the charges blew. Get out if you can, she ordered. If not, she swallowed hard. It's been an honor. Likewise, Commander, came the steady reply. 28 seconds later, the central processing node exploded. The blast cascaded through the facility's power grid, creating secondary explosions that ripped through the mining operation. The shield generators failed, and the automated defenses went offline. Amid the chaos, Maya led her remaining team members, just 4 now, out of the original 12, to Extraction Point 2. There they found 3 survivors from Team Charlie and 6 from Alpha. No one from Bravo made it out. As their transport sped away into the night, Maya watched the facility burn. One small victory in a war they were still losing. But they'd proven something vital: the Vraxians could be surprised. They could be hurt. And most importantly, they could adapt their technology but not their thinking. It wasn't much, but it was a start. In the weeks that followed, similar raids occurred worldwide. Small, coordinated strikes against Vraxian mining operations and communications arrays. Few were as successful as Maya's first mission, but collectively, they began to impact the aliens' timeline. In orbit, the remaining intact space stations and satellites had been repurposed into a makeshift defense network called Sentinel. Commander Chen was assigned to lead it, coordinating with ground forces and gathering intelligence on Vraxian movements. Meanwhile, Dr. Okafor's team worked tirelessly on Project Antares. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source: the virus that human hackers had introduced into the Vraxian communications array. It wasn't just corrupting their data, Kwame explained to the assembled military leadership. It was collecting information about their systems. And we found something remarkable. He displayed a complex diagram on the main screen. The Vraxians operate as a networked intelligence. Their individual units are formidable, but they rely on constant communication with their central AI, what they call the Supreme Consciousness, for tactical decisions. General Harrington leaned forward. A weakness? Potentially. Sarah Nakamura picked up the explanation. Their communication protocols are incredibly sophisticated, but they follow rigid mathematical patterns. We've been able to analyze these patterns and develop a countersignal. What would this countersignal do? Asked the president. Kwame took a deep breath. In theory, it would create a cascading disruption throughout their network. A feedback loop that would temporarily paralyze their decision-making capability. How temporarily? General Harrington asked. Minutes, at most, Kwame admitted. But during those minutes, they would be unable to coordinate their forces or activate their advanced defensive systems. The room was silent as everyone considered the implications. We'd need to deliver this signal directly to their mothership, Sarah added. The disruption needs to begin at the source of their command structure. And we'd need to exploit those minutes with a coordinated global counterattack, General Harrington said. Hit every Vraxian position simultaneously while they're vulnerable. The president nodded slowly. How soon can this be ready? The signal is ready now, Kwame said. The delivery mechanism is the challenge. We need to get a transmitter within 1 kilometer of the mothership. All eyes turned to Maya. Sentinel Station, she said quietly. It's in a stable orbit that brings it within range of the mothership every 72 hours. And the transmitter? The president asked. We'd need to modify Sentinel's communication array, Sarah explained. Which would require a team to physically install the equipment. A suicide mission, Maya stated flatly. No one contradicted her. The president stood. Commander Chen, I won't order you to. I volunteer, Maya said, her voice unwavering. I know Sentinel better than anyone. And I have the most experience with EVA operations. The president studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Very well. General Harrington, begin preparations for a global counteroffensive. If this works, when this works, we'll have one chance to hit them while they're down. As the meeting dispersed, Kwame approached Maya. Commander, there's something you should know about Project Antares. It's not just a disruption signal. He lowered his voice. Based on our analysis of their technology, we believe this signal could do more than temporarily disable their network. It could potentially overload their systems completely. Maya understood what he wasn't saying. The entire mothership? And possibly any Vraxian technology directly connected to it at the time of transmission. She absorbed this silently. Does the president know? Yes. But we couldn't discuss the full potential in the meeting. The Vraxians have demonstrated limited telepathic abilities. We can't risk them sensing our true intent. Maya nodded. When do we leave? 48 hours. We need to finish calibrating the transmitter. I'll be ready. The mission to Sentinel Station went smoothly at first. Maya, along with a small team including Lieutenant Rodriguez, who had survived the mining facility mission after all, docked with the partially disabled station. They worked quickly to install the modified transmitter in Sentinel's communication array. Final calibration complete, reported Dr. Nakamura over the comm from Earth. The signal package is loaded and ready. Maya, working in her EVA suit outside the station, made the last connections. Transmitter is online. Powering up now. The station's restored systems hummed to life. On her helmet display, Maya could see the countdown, 26 minutes until Sentinel's orbit would bring it within range of the Vraxian mothership. Commander, Rodriguez called from inside. We're picking up movement from the mothership. They've detected our power signature. Maya finished securing the transmitter and began moving back toward the airlock. Expected. Stick to the plan. The plan was simple. Once the transmitter was installed, the team would evacuate in their shuttle, leaving the station to broadcast the signal automatically. They would be safely away before the Vraxians could respond. Or so they thought. Multiple contacts, Rodriguez reported as Maya cycled through the airlock. Vraxian interceptors on approach. ETA 3 minutes. Maya checked the countdown again. 22 minutes to transmission range. We need to buy time, she said, sealing her helmet. Lieutenant, take the shuttle and the rest of the team. Begin evacuation. Rodriguez stared at her. Commander? I'll stay behind to ensure the transmitter remains operational. The station has enough maneuvering fuel to keep it on course if the Vraxians try to disable it. She met his eyes through her visor. That's an order, Lieutenant. After a moment of tense silence, he nodded. Yes, Commander. As the shuttle detached with the rest of the team, Maya moved to Sentinel's control center. Through the viewport, she could see the approaching Vraxian fighters, sleek, predatory shapes against the stars. Kwame, she called over the secure channel. Are you receiving? Loud and clear, Maya, came his voice. The shuttle reports they're away safely. Good. She activated the station's maneuvering thrusters. I'm going to need your help maintaining optimal transmission position. The Vraxians will try to knock us out of alignment. There was a pause. Maya, this wasn't the plan. Plans change. She watched as the first interceptor fired, the energy beam slicing through one of Sentinel's solar arrays. The station shuddered. Someone needs to keep this station pointed at the mothership. She could almost see Kwame's expression as he realized what she was doing. We'll guide you, he said finally. General Harrington has authorized the global counteroffensive. All forces are standing by for the signal transmission. The next few minutes were a desperate game of cat and mouse. The Vraxian interceptors methodically targeted Sentinel's external systems, trying to disable it without destroying the station entirely. Maya used the remaining maneuvering thrusters to keep the transmitter array aligned with the approaching mothership, compensating for each hit. 5 minutes to optimal transmission range, Kwame reported. Maya, your oxygen levels. Sufficient, she replied tersely, though they both knew it was a lie. The damage to the station had compromised her suit's recharge capability. She had perhaps 10 minutes of air left. A massive impact rocked the station. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. They've targeted the reactor cooling systems, Maya reported, fingers flying across the controls. Rerouting emergency power to the transmitter. Maya Kwame's voice was strained. Don't, she cut him off. Just tell me about Lily. Is she still at the Rocky Mountain facility? A pause. Yes. She's safe. Good. Maya smiled behind her visor, even as another blast shook the station. You'll tell her that I did this for her? For all of them? I promise. The mothership loomed larger in the viewport now, its massive form eclipsing Earth beyond. 3 minutes to transmission range. 2 more Vraxian interceptors took position around Sentinel, their weapons charged. They're preparing a concentrated strike, Maya said. They've figured out what we're doing. Can you evade? She checked the maneuvering fuel. Negative. But I can put the station between them and the transmitter. Without waiting for a response, she fired the remaining thrusters, rotating Sentinel so that its bulk shielded the vital transmitter array. As she completed the maneuver, the interceptors fired, the combined energy beams struck Sentinel's main hub, sending Maya flying across the control center. Warning alarms blared as the station's atmosphere vented into space. Her suit had protected her from the blast, but the impact had cracked her helmet visor. A thin line appeared, spreading slowly. Hit confirmed, she gasped into her comm. Transmitter status? Operational, Kwame replied. 1 minute to transmission range. Maya pulled herself back to the controls, fighting against the escaping atmosphere and her own fading consciousness as oxygen leaked from her damaged suit. The mothership filled the viewport now. 30 seconds, Kwame counted down. Global forces are in position. The cracked visor spread further. Maya's vision began to tunnel. With her remaining strength, she made a final adjustment to the transmitter's alignment. 10 seconds. 5 transmitting now. Through her darkening vision, Maya saw the signal leave Sentinel not visible to the naked eye, but indicated by the status lights on the console. It struck the mothership dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a wave spreading outward, every light on the massive alien vessel flickered and went dark. The interceptors surrounding Sentinel suddenly drifted, inert. Signal confirmed. Kwame's voice was exultant. Their network is down. All forces are engaging. Maya smiled as her consciousness faded. Her last thought was of Lily, and the Earth she'd helped save. Dr. Kwame Okafor stood at the podium, addressing the United Nations General Assembly 6 months after what had come to be known as the Battle of Sentinel. The Antares signal exceeded our expectations, he explained. The cascading disruption didn't just temporarily disable the Vraxian network, it created a catastrophic feedback loop in their supreme consciousness. Their entire command structure collapsed. On the screens behind him, footage showed Vraxian vessels and ground forces suddenly rendered inert, becoming easy targets for the coordinated human counterattack. Without centralized direction, their technological advantage became meaningless. Their forces couldn't adapt to our simultaneous global assault. He advanced to the next slide. The mothership itself suffered a complete systems failure. Our analysis of the wreckage confirms that the supreme consciousness, essentially a vast artificial intelligence, was destroyed. A delegate raised her hand. Dr. Okafor, what of the Vraxian survivors? The few that remained were disconnected from their network intelligence. They've been cooperative, helping us understand their technology. He paused. They're a changed species now, individuals rather than extensions of the supreme consciousness. In time, peaceful relations may be possible. Another delegate spoke up. And what of Commander Chen? Has there been any sign? Kwame's expression grew solemn. No. Sentinel Station was destroyed in the final moments of the battle. However, he gestured, and the screens changed to show an orbital construction project. The International Space Alliance has begun building a new station at the same coordinates. It will be called Chen Station, in her honor. The assembly rose in a standing ovation. Later, as Kwame left the UN building, he found Lieutenant Rodriguez, now Captain Rodriguez, waiting for him. Good speech, Doctor, Rodriguez said. Though you left out a few classified details. Kwame nodded. Some things are still too sensitive to share publicly. The fact that we've reverse-engineered Vraxian FTL technology, for instance. Or that we've detected signals from other Vraxian-conquered worlds seeking help in overthrowing their masters, Rodriguez added quietly. They walked together toward the waiting car. The President is assembling a task force, Rodriguez continued. Scientists, military specialists, diplomats. Our mission will be to assess these calls for help and determine how Earth should respond. And they want me to lead the scientific team, Kwame guessed. Rodriguez nodded. We leave in 3 months. The Chen will be ready by then. The Chen? Our first FTL-capable vessel. Built with Vraxian technology but distinctly human in design and purpose. Rodriguez smiled slightly. Maya would have liked that. Kwame looked up at the sky, where the first stars were becoming visible in the twilight. Yes, he agreed. She would have. Somewhere out there, other species waited for liberation, and humanity tested by fire and found unbreaking was ready to answer the call. Not as conquerors, like the Vraxians had been, but as allies. As equals, Maya Chen had given her life to prove that humanity's strength lay not in technological superiority, but in courage, adaptability, and unwavering determination. Now, those same qualities would carry her species to the stars. The terrifying encounter that began with invasion would end with humanity taking its place among the galactic community not as a conquered species, but as liberators, and somewhere, Kwame liked to think, Maya was watching. And smiling.